Hey friends, Alon Mizrahi here. This is the Mizrahi perspective. And before this thing blows up, before this war in Iran, with Iran begins, which I'm still convinced is going to happen, I don't think they are bluffing this time. I think they are serious. They are close to actually launching this. This is my feeling. This is not science. None of this is science. This is the beauty of it. I wanted to take the opportunity to do something I wanted to do for a long time, and which is to take one subject, one theme that is spoken about in popular culture, and to do a political analysis of this thing in a thorough way, which is something we don't ever do and we are never exposed to. Because our political education is intentionally very lacking. We are never taught to look at things politically. So for a long time I wanted to do this, taking one subject, one theme, like AI, or like the Epstein scandal, which I'm going to talk about today, and do an actual thorough analysis or dissection of this. And there are so many political layers to the Epstein scandal. And this is my subject today. This video is going to be free for about 10 minutes or so, which is going to be enough for me to cover the first political aspect of the Epstein scandal, and perhaps the most important one, which is the class aspect of the Epstein scandal. But there are more things I want to talk about regarding the Epstein scandal, how it connects with colonialism. What is the obsession with children and innocence? And finally, I want to talk about the connection between the Epstein scandal and stereotypes about Jews, and how those are related to Epstein and are, to me, an inherent part of this big, gigantic scandal. So the full video will only be available on my Substack. It won't be available on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can follow the link in the description and watch it on my Substack. YouTube has been killing my reach, and also is not allowing me to earn money through through people watching this. Through the time my videos are being watched, I'm demonetized completely, and together with the killing of reach, it's almost a political death sentence for someone who creates content of the kind I'm doing. So the full video is going to be only available on my Substack for my subscribers. If you want to watch this one specifically, and you're not subscribed and you're not a paid subscriber, you can do a trial, start a trial and cancel it right after you watch this video. The trial is going to give you, I think, 7 days of full access to all my Substack archive, which is substantial. Now I'm going to take my time today and take it slow, because this is complex, and this is the closest to an actual lecture I've given in a long time. This is more of almost a university lecture. This is not my usual talk about certain aspects of occurrences in our political and geopolitical sphere. This is something a bit different. This is why I called it Epstein for advanced learners. This is for people who are interested in exploring further and looking deeper into the meaning and or the meanings of stuff that's happening in our political sphere, which is really a major part of our consciousness and how we live and how we see life. But since a big war is about to begin, I want to say a word about this. Trump has been acting so amateurishly and foolishly vis-a-vis Iran. I mean, he already sent his military, his navy, to threaten Iran with an imminent strike. And then he wants to start negotiating. But this kind of behavior is based on an assumption of power which is irrelevant. I mean, Iran is not scared and it is not defenseless. This is something you can do with a weak country that doesn't have the military capabilities and the ideological understanding and determination and the religious explanation for resistance. Those are the kind of countries you can use this trick on, sending the military to intimidate them. It doesn't work with Iran, but now that he sent his military, his position trying to expose Iran, trying to threaten Iran, trying to make Iran move in the desired direction of Israel and the US, what we have is now Trump being exposed. Trump having to, now that the projector is on, shining a big light on Trump, exposing him, because now he has to decide. Instead of forcing a choice on Iran, now the US is forced to make a choice, and it has to be a bad choice. The US doesn't have a good choice here. Either it goes to war, which it cannot win, and the US cannot win this. I'm telling you this in advance. The US is not going to defeat Iran in war thousands and thousands of miles away from American shores. This is not happening. This is not the 19th century, and this is not Venezuela. An American victory is out of the question. So either they go to war that they are probably going to lose, and probably in a bad way, because anything short of a major spectacular triumph is a big loss and a big defeat for the US, which is supposed to be this global hegemon everyone is so afraid of. So either they choose this path, or they choose some kind of an agreement, which has to be, from the Iranian perspective, it has to be better than previous agreements. It can't be worse, because it will be them succumbing to pressure, which they are not going to do. So the US is now stuck between two bad options, and this is its own doing. This is Trump. This is an unforced era, to use tennis lingo. This is Trump deciding to do this. No one forced the US to send their military, but now that they are there, retreating without a major diplomatic breakthrough would seem like a defeat. But a major diplomatic breakthrough would have to mean that the US accepts Iranian terms and agrees to relieve sanctions, which the US is extremely reluctant to do, and would send this kind of an outcome would send Israel into hysteria. So the US is now stuck. It was trying to create this impression of a great gargantuan power that's moving ahead and is unstoppable, and it is going to cause Iran to cower in fear and almost collapse immediately just from the sight of American Navy. And this is not happening. So now the US is stuck either between a very bad war or a very bad agreement. And no one forced them to do it, except, of course, Israel and Netanyahu. But how is it that Israel and Netanyahu have so much power over the US that they can send potentially tens of thousands of American soldiers into harm's way after the Gaza Holocaust, and while the Epstein fallout is still happening, big time, is just beginning? How is this even possible? This is a question that many of us and many historians and political researchers are going to ask themselves. How was this possible? How was this possible? How was this even possible? Who has this kind of influence? What is this based on? How are they doing it? How are they doing it? How is this possible? How are they allowed to do something like this? Sending the US to a potential huge war in the Middle East, 20 years after Iraq and Afghanistan, the major disasters that brought nothing for the US, did nothing for the US, except heartache and economic crisis and social upheaval and political chaos and an erosion of civil liberties and so on and so on and so on. So how is this possible that in 2026 Israel is still capable of sending the US to fight another major war in the Middle East? And this decision has already been made. Because when they send their military to the Persian Gulf, whether they decided to actually use it in war or not, they accept the risk that this might happen. This is a probable outcome, because something might happen that will trigger this war. Maybe Iran reacts a certain way, maybe someone misjudges and misfires and begins this. I mean, when the fact they sent the American military to the Persian Gulf means they have accepted the very high probability of war. So how is this possible? This is the question so many of us are asking ourselves, and we are going to continue ask ourselves, and many other people are going to be asking themselves after this thing is over, and this spell of Zionist control over the US and everything, every conversation and every aspect of power and decision making. People are not going to forget. They are not going to forget. But I want to talk about Epstein. I want to talk about Epstein before this war begins, because once this war begins, this is all we are going to talk about. This is everything everyone is going to talk about, and there's going to be a spillover. This is going to develop in ways we cannot imagine now. We know that Russian and Chinese forces are in the Persian Gulf and for an exercise with Iran. And we know that, again, there's escalation in Ukraine, and Western powers are delivering long-range systems to the Ukrainians. And this has to be connected. I mean, Ukraine and Iran have to be connected. So this is going to develop in ways we cannot anticipate now. And we are not going to be able to talk about anything else. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the Epstein, because I wanted, this is basically my mission. To make this kind of discourse, this kind of analysis, this kind of conversation part of broader culture. We need to think politically. We need to speak politically. We need to judge and look at things from a political perspective, be it AI or technology or everything major that's happening has to be looked at from a political perspective. And this is part of my mission. This is something I love doing. This is something I think is essential. If we want to have better systems, if we want to have a better culture where pedophilia is not tolerated and such horrifying abuse of power is not tolerated, we have to be political. And this is something, and I'm already beginning to talk about Epstein, because if there's one thing the capitalist order doesn't want us to do is to be political. They want us to be consumers. And consumers, by definition, are not political people. They are not political people. They are after the next purchase, the next sale, the big trend. What is trending now? What is everybody searching online? What is the big hit? This is by definition apolitical. This is anti-political. This is closing people. This is precisely the prison that we feel we live in. This is the prison. We live in an American-made false universe where the only options, where the only choice we have in life is to choose what to buy and when to buy it and how to pay for it and how to earn the money to pay for it and so on and so on and so on. And this is our life. But this is a false, misleading, dangerous, lethal way of living and looking at life. And this is what I'm rebelling against. This is why I always insist on being political, on looking at the political reasons for stuff. They are not financial, they are not economic, they are not all these other sets of considerations and explanations. Things are political. They are related to a power struggle. This is what it means, political. People are competing for power and control. And the result is the reality that we live in. And every aspect of it, every single aspect of it. Everything we eat, everything we see, everything we hear, how we dress, and so on and so on and so on, where we live and the architecture that we see and live in, and every aspect of everything is the result of a power struggle. So I've taken upon myself this very ambitious mission of explaining this, making this principle into something concrete about specific subjects and aspects of our life, to demonstrate this, to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And I'm going to talk about the Epstein scandal this way. Now, Epstein is not about one person or one group of friends, malicious and disgusting and evil as we think they are. It is not about them. The first political lesson that the Epstein scandal teaches us can be seen if we understand that this is not about personalities, this is about a system. The Epstein scandal and all the horrid details that we have been exposed to are an indictment of a system, are an indictment of a certain social strata that only exists within a certain political universe and doesn't exist elsewhere. Western elites, American moneyed elites, and European nobility and moneyed elites exist within, and they are the ones, they are the culprits. They are the one involved in this. This is not about everyday people. This is about elites, but this is about elites within a certain political context. This is what I'm getting at. And why is this about a certain political aspect? And why is the Epstein scandal, the equivalent of an Epstein scandal, is not possible in China or in Iran, for that matter? Why is it only possible within a capitalist system? Okay, this is a political way of looking at things. This is how we actually learn something. This is not being horrified and being drawn to this harrowing detail or that unbelievable fact. This is the big picture, the one we can learn from. And when we look at things from this perspective, we can understand why speculation, why Bitcoin, why financial tricks are so frowned upon in the Chinese system, in socialism and communism. And now I'm not a communist. I'm going to talk about this in a different video. But I understand the communist impulse. I understand where it's coming from. I'm definitely a socialist. In capitalism, we have invariably, and it's a feature, it's not a bug. As part of capitalism, we have a class of people. A class of people. And it doesn't matter how, the names don't matter. Okay? A class of people who have so much money and whose standing in power within that system is guaranteed by the way the system operates. And the system guarantees they will be richer and more powerful every year, every week, right? Elon Musk is getting like billions more richer, billions richer every week, every day sometimes. The system is built to guarantee that this class of people will become eternally richer and more powerful. Now, these people don't work for a living. This is also another aspect of capitalism. The people we see in the Epstein, the stars of the Epstein email list, none of them works for a living. This is a class of people who produce nothing, who do nothing for society. They are rich beyond imagination because the system feeds them and serves them and guarantees that this is the outcome of economic activity and political activity and every activity in society. And they accumulate more and more money and more influence and more ownership of more and more stuff. And this class of people begins to believe that they have not only infinite money and infinite political power, but this happens inescapably. This is an inescapable conclusion of this feature of capitalism. Because people tend to believe there's a moral justification to their state, to the way their life looks. So this class of people begins to believe that they have infinite money and infinite political power because they represent a higher form of a human being. They are not like the rest of us. They have been chosen for this. They manufacture the moral justifications for all the money and power and influence they have, which are only bestowed upon them by this crooked system. So now the next step can be easily seen. If this class of people who don't need to ever work for a living, they scheme, they don't work and don't produce. They don't go and drive a bus and create furniture as a carpenter or work as bricklayers, as teachers, and as even lawyers. They don't work. They inherit huge sums of money and they collect rent through subscriptions, not like my Substack subscriptions, through real estate, through all this kind of pseudo-economic activity which only strengthens this twisted social model. So they have nothing to do. They have all this money and all this time, and they create the moral justification for why they have this much money and this is power. And this is an inescapable part of the model. This deformed consciousness that these elites have, you cannot have it otherwise. When so much privilege is bestowed upon you, you inescapably become corrupt and stupid and rotten. This is almost physics. And this is again the creation of a certain political arrangement called capitalism and colonialism. But I'm going to talk about colonialism in the next in this video. So this is what the Epstein scandal is showing us. A cross-section, an X-ray of this phenomena. It is not about this baroness and that model and that businessman. It's about the system. It's about the capitalist system which creates this class of people who have infinite resources and unlimited access to political power, because they not only buy people when they run, and the American system encourages this, they actually own the candidates to begin with. So they own the candidates, they own the system, they own the advertising agencies, they own the media, they own every part of it. And every day that this system exists, they become richer and more powerful, by definition. No other member in the capitalist society has this kind of certainty, but they do. No matter if we have war, if we have crisis, if economic crisis, if we have an epidemic, or a real or fake epidemic, they are getting richer. So once they once they manufacture the moral justifications for their status, what else can they do but buy and abuse people? What else can they do? What is the conclusion of everything I said? This is a major reason communism and socialism limit the accumulation of money. So this class of people doesn't get created in the first place. So this kind of depravity is not allowed to take root, because the system rules out the creation of this class of people who are so rich and so powerful and so crooked, because this is generational. Every generation becomes crazier because they inherit billions. They inherit an address, a phone, an address list, a phone book with every name of every person you can imagine. They just call them and tell them, I want to do this or get that or anything they want. Things normal people can't even dream of having, but they have it naturally when they are 5. So by the time they become adults, they are so corrupt. And they have no challenge in life, and they can find no joy and no satisfaction in life. The only thing that can give them any sense of joy is abusing other people, is exploiting other people, is humiliating other people, is murdering other people. This is the only kind of activity which will still give them any tingling sensation of something happening, because all the rest they already have. And the system guarantees they'll have more and more of it, infinitely, in a linear line. And capitalism creates the system of capitalism, not the rotten personality of that actor or that actress. This is the system. This is what we should be focused on, not on the names on the Epstein list. They are almost insignificant. They should face justice, but this is not the point. The point is we understand. We have to understand the real life results of the political structure we live in. And this is the inevitable results. Inevitable, inescapable, call it how you want, of capitalism. This class of people engage in these kinds of activities. This is part and parcel of capitalism. And the corrupt political system that you inevitably have as part of capitalism. You can't have honest politicians in capitalism. You can't have honest business people in capitalism. You can't have honest religion in capitalism, because capital corrupts everything. And the concentration of wealth, and we can see this accelerating and becoming more severe and more pronounced, the concentration of wealth in the 1%, or even the 1% of the 1%. This is getting like bigger and bigger. And what it means to them, to the people who are part of this class, this again, as part of normal human psychology, the only influence this kind of reality can have on you is to corrupt you and to drive you into participating in mass pedophilia and human sacrifice and all the insanity that we have seen. This is an indictment of a system. This is not about certain names on a certain list. Now I can talk more about this point, but I think this is clear enough for this video. And now the rest of this video from this point onward is going to be only available on my Substack. So see you there, and to everyone who's already watching on Substack, I'm gonna just continue as usual. And this is going to be a long video, but it's okay. This is part of